They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do.
The fact that you just got done engaging in a conversation where we have a president of the United States who has no idea about the oath that he just took on January 20th tells me everything that I need.
What happens when a Supreme Court judge calls out Donald Trump for intimidation and refuses to back down? Jasmine Crockett just flipped the script on his usual tactics, leaving him scrambling. You won't believe how Trump's big threats ended up making him look smaller than ever. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
From the oath that he was supposed to take, and he supposedly took an oath, which there's a lot of people that point out that he never put his hand on the Bible. He didn't even have good sense enough in that same interview to say something as simple as, yes, I will follow the Constitution. You know, the thing that actually derived.
What makes a Supreme Court judge step into the spotlight and take on Donald Trump head on? Jasmine Crockett answered that question with a boldness that caught everyone off guard. She's not the type to fold under pressure, and her latest move proves it. Crockett, known for her oversight work with ICE facilities, took center stage when she decided to publicly outline Trump's attempts at intimidation. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some vague behind closed doors kind of moment. It was loud, direct, and impossible to ignore. For starters, Crockett has been deeply involved in ensuring accountability at ICE facilities, particularly focusing on accusations of human rights abuses and improper conditions that have been swept under the rug for way too long. So it shouldn't really shock anyone that her work would eventually put her in Trump's crosshairs. He's been down this road before, weaponizing his power to scare off critics when the walls start closing in. But this time, his usual playbook didn't go the way he wanted. Instead of caving, Crockett decided to pull the curtain back on Trump's tactics and reveal them for what they really are: clumsy bullying meant to hide desperation. To paint the full picture, Trump reportedly had his usual theatrics in full swing. His so-called threats, aimed at silencing congressional oversight, were dripping in ego, of course. You're probably imagining something big, loud, and over-the-top, classic Trump, and you'd be right. But where he often relies on bluster to intimidate, Crockett flipped the script. She kept it composed and refused to even flinch, which honestly seemed to have the effect of making Trump's whole act feel, well, kind of sad and embarrassing. This is the same Donald Trump who has made fear his signature move. Whether it's throwing insults at political opponents, pushing his legal team to block investigations, or undermining journalists in the most public ways imaginable, intimidation has worked for him in the past. Remember when people like Jeff Sessions and Rex Tillerson got bulldozed out of his administration because they wouldn't align with his agenda? Trump practically built his reputation on the idea that no one dares to stand up to him, or if they do, it won't end well for them. But Crockett wasn't about to become another name on that list, which she made clear by firing back publicly. Her response was as calculated as it was confident. Crockett laid out Trump's alleged meddling in a way that made it impossible to ignore. She didn't call him names or sink to his level. Instead, she presented the facts clearly, with precision, and without even a shred of panic. If Trump's threats were meant to get a reaction, they got one, just not the one he wanted. Crockett framed his intimidation as proof of his growing insecurity, calling him out in such a way that didn't just neutralize his power move but highlighted it for what it really was: the desperate antics of someone trying to avoid accountability. And while Trump's long history of using fear is well documented, Crockett's refusal to be silenced places her in a smaller, much more impressive group of people who've turned his bravado against him. Trump wanted her to back off her work overseeing ICE facilities, an area that's already plagued with allegations ranging from poor living conditions to outright neglect. His warning seemed designed to send a message: stay out of this, or else. But Crockett's defiance didn't just push back. It spotlighted why that oversight work matters, and why Trump might be so scared of what could come to light. Her public revelation wasn't some empty statement either. It's a game changer for one key reason. It frames Trump's intimidation as an active threat to democracy itself. When someone as high-profile as Crockett breaks her silence about this kind of behavior, it pulls the discussion out of the shadows and onto a national stage. Suddenly, Trump's reliance on scare tactics doesn't just look authoritarian, it looks weak. That image of Trump as a strongman that he loves so much, Crockett's actions chipped away at it, showing a man who relies on cheap power plays rather than, actual strength. What she did is not only empowering, it's a warning shot to anyone else who might try to wield intimidation as a tool. And the irony is hard to miss. Trump, who built his career on projecting dominance, is now the one looking feeble and cornered because someone chose to stand their ground against him. But why is Trump so invested in this issue with ICE facilities in the first place? Could it be that oversight in this area carries consequences far more damaging to him than most people realize? Well, if you think his desperation to silence this debate is suspicious, you're not alone. Let's unpack why ICE oversight has Trump acting like someone with a lot to hide. It's more revealing than you might think. What exactly is Donald Trump trying to hide at ICE facilities? His frantic effort to silence congressional oversight isn't just about keeping up appearances, it's about dodging accountability, plain and simple. To really understand why he's so desperate, we need to look back at some of his greatest hits when it comes to pushing oversight out the door. During his administration, Trump didn't just try to block investigations here and there. He set out to dismantle the very mechanisms designed to keep him in check. Think about the role of oversight in democracy. It's not some optional feature you can switch off when things get messy. Departments like the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties were created to investigate civil rights violations, and the Ombudsman was supposed to monitor conditions at ICE detention centers. But during Trump's reign, these offices either got gutted or had their authority drained, leaving little to no one watching the shop. Staff were fired outright as Trump's allies claimed oversight was obstructing enforcement or undermining the mission. Undermining the mission? That's rich coming from someone who treated transparency like kryptonite. What was left in the wake of this purge? Well, allegations of human rights abuses in ICE facilities went largely unchecked. Between overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and detainees being denied basic necessities, the stories that did surface were horrifying. And let's not forget the deaths in ICE custody, more of them in Trump's first year in office than at any time since 2020. Do you think Trump wanted anyone snooping around and tallying that body count? Not likely. But here's the thing. Congressional oversight is a constitutional right, no matter how much Trump or his lawyers would like to pretend otherwise. The Speech and Debate Clause exists specifically to protect members of Congress from being harassed or punished for doing their job. And it's not just a vague, theoretical thing either. The law straight up bans anyone from preventing Congress from conducting oversight, which includes facilities like ICE detention centers. Yet Trump's team tried their best to create roadblocks anyway, with veiled threats and legal hissy fits meant to intimidate anyone who got too close to the truth. What's ironic is how Trump's much-loved intimidation tactics ended up backfiring. Instead of shutting down the conversation, his efforts just turned the spotlight up. Suddenly, everyone had questions about what was going on behind those detention center walls. And it's not like ICE had a sparkling reputation beforehand. Remember the reports of kids being kept in cages or separated from their parents indefinitely? Those controversies painted a grim picture, making Trump's fight to keep the doors closed look even more suspicious. It wasn't just smoke, there was clearly fire, and people started demanding answers. Of course, Trump didn't act alone in his effort to keep the lid on ICE. The Republican Party played a key supporting role, bending over backwards to excuse his behavior. They framed oversight as some kind of political witch hunt and tried to paint Trump as the victim. Yeah, the guy who literally called oversight treason and suggested jailing people for asking questions. Such a victim. Meanwhile, by defending him, they weren't just protecting Trump. They were chipping away at democracy itself. Oversight isn't a partisan issue. It's what keeps our leaders honest. Or at least, it's supposed to. Unless, of course, someone's priority is protecting a leader rather than the law. All of this raises one obvious question: what exactly is Trump so afraid of? His insistence on silencing oversight at ICE facilities suggests there's more than just bad PR at stake. Maybe it's fear of being linked directly to these abuses or facing legal consequences. Or maybe it's simply about maintaining his image as the guy in control, the one who doesn't answer to anyone. Either way, his reaction speaks volumes. When someone goes to this much trouble to shut you up, it usually means you're on to something. In the end, Trump's attacks on oversight may have actually done the opposite of what he intended. Instead of brushing the issue under the rug, his threats shine a spotlight on the very abuses he wanted people to ignore. It's like trying to hide a broken window with a neon sign that says, "Don't look here." People are going to look, and they're going to keep looking. So, while Trump stomps his feet and blames everyone but himself, the call for accountability grows louder. And make no mistake, it's not just about ICE or Congress, it's about whether Trump's go-to strategy of bullying his way out of trouble still works. Spoiler alert, it doesn't seem to be working anymore. Crockett's actions, standing up and exposing intimidation for what it is, are proof that the tide is changing. Intimidation, once Trump's ultimate weapon, is now making him look like a leader grasping at straws. When someone like Crockett steps up and refuses to budge, it sets a powerful example for others to follow. And that's got to keep Trump up at night, doesn't it? Because the more people who see through his act, the less control he has. The days of everyone flinching at his threats might actually be over. So where does that leave us now? Trump's threats, once his greatest weapon, are starting to look like desperate attempts to hold on to power. Jasmine Crockett didn't just expose that, she made it clear that his bark isn't just worse than his bite. It's all he's got left. Her courage shows that intimidation no longer works when people refuse to play his game. And that's what's so powerful about her stand. This fight isn't just about Trump or politics, it's about defending democracy itself. So keep laughing through the madness and calling out the nonsense, because accountability will win out. The real question is, when?